Now to this, a Tennessee school board is banning a critically acclaimed graphic novel about the Holocaust. The McMinn County School Board voted unanimously earlier this month to remove the book from their 8th grade curriculum over profanity and an image of a nude female character. The book's characters are animals. Jews are depicted as mice, and Nazis are cats. Mouse, it's called, tells the story of the author's parents' time in a Nazi concentration camp and is the only graphic novel to ever win a Pulitzer Prize. Author Art Spiegelman called the move Orwellian. The Anti-Defamation League also weighed in on Twitter, writing in part that the decision, quote, serves no purpose other than to rob the next generation of knowledge. And the CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, joins us now. His recent book is entitled, "It Could Happen Here: Why America is Tipping from Hate to the Unthinkable and How We Can Stop It." And Jonathan, I'd love to hear more on your reaction to that move by the Tennessee School Board, and especially as we note that today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Well, it is, Mika. Today is the 77th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp, which was in many ways the symbol of the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews across the continent of Europe, part of the final solution of the Nazi death machine. And so it is a remarkable and appalling moment when a school board in Tennessee bans a Pulitzer Prize-winning book about the Holocaust, because we're living in a moment today when ignorance about that genocide is unfortunately on the rise. You know, we just have seen polls that indicate, one from Pew in 2020, that more than half of Americans were unaware that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. And that ignorance fuels anti-Semitism today. ADL did some polling last year that found that 63% of American Jews have either seen or experienced anti-Semitism in the past 5 years. 59% don't feel as safe as they used to. And look, I appreciate that school boards have and should play an important role in evaluating the curriculum for their kids. And there can be overreach in some instances. But banning books that teach about the Holocaust, or suggesting, as we saw in Texas, that there's two sides to the Nazi story, I think is abominable and is an overcorrection at best and just outright intolerant at worst.
And it plays into the title of your book for sure. And I would love to point out to you, Jonathan, that actually my brother is in Auschwitz right now to remember with his team at the embassy. Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jonathan, Mark Brzezinski and others are at Auschwitz to commemorate the liberation of that Nazi death camp. But Jonathan, it seems to me, I remember in the 1970s, when I was a young kid, seeing 60 Minutes pieces about the rise of neo-Nazis in Germany. In the 80s, when I was in college, I remember just openly anti-Semitic professors at some of the best universities in this country. In the 90s, I took note of the rise, just by reading papers every day, took note of the rise of anti-Semitism really rising again in Europe. And over the past 20 years, things have not gotten better. It seems people have become even more calloused towards anti-Semitism, and some want to completely whitewash what happened at Auschwitz and in other death camps.
Well, we have certainly seen a disturbing rise of extremism, Joe, in Europe, in the United States, really around the world. I mean, memory of the Holocaust seems to be trampled on every day, a kind of Holocaust distortionism, where you have, you know, a congressman in Ohio who compares having to show a vaccine card to walk into a restaurant in D.C. to the Nuremberg laws that literally dehumanized my grandfather and his family and forced them into the ghetto before they hauled them off, you know, in cattle cars. Or you have RFK this past weekend comparing himself to Anne Frank because of the vaccine. I mean, you see this kind of really ugly distortionism on the far left and the far right, and extremism is on the rise. You know, ADL released a new report this week looking at extremists running for office in this country. And our Center on Extremism is tracking more than 100 candidates across 32 states, dozens of whom are outright members of extremist groups or openly affiliate. We have, you know, a county commissioner, someone running for county commissioner, in Georgia, who's a former KKK leader and member of the neo-Nazi party. We have someone running for the picture you see on the screen in front of you, a person running for the State House in Oregon who's a 3%er. We have people running who are oath keepers, Proud Boys, and in addition to the explicit extremists, Joe, we have almost 45 candidates who are openly espousing QAnon and supporting tenets of that wild, evil conspiracy theory that promotes the idea that there's a cabal trying to, you know, control the country. I mean, it is really stunning that in this moment you see we've got the virus of COVID, Joe, but we also have the virus of ignorance, which seems to be everywhere across the spectrum, and it's frightening.
Hey, Jonathan, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. As you pointed to, there's been recently especially a cheapening of the language around the Holocaust and a trivializing of the Holocaust by politicians or people on cable news who want to say that Dr. Fauci is like the doctor of death from the Nazis, and just so easily and, as I say, cheaply making those comparisons. What is the sort of aggregate impact of that kind of language creeping back into the national dialogue and the discourse? And as you point to some of these candidates, these people who may have been in the shadows in the past, now coming out of the shadows, running for office and being put on television?
It's a great question, Willie, and indeed, you just pointed out what I think is so important and so seminal. There's always been a lunatic fringe, but somehow they seem to be now in the forefront of the public conversation. And these extremists have exploited all the uncertainty in this moment and moved from the margins right in the mainstream. And leaders on both sides don't call this stuff out. And, you know, the Claims Conference did a campaign last year called It Starts With Words. And I will not draw comparisons to the Holocaust. It was a singular event of evil in human history. But let's be open and let's be honest about the fact that when you have leaders in positions of authority who look away or don't call out when people make, you know, suggestions that George Soros is somehow manipulating events behind the scenes, trying to create white genocide, that's a white supremacist tenet. When somehow suggesting the Jewish state is like the Nazi regime committing genocide, that is also a hateful idea that leads to hate at home. We need people on both sides to simply say this denial, this distortionism, it's wrong, and it sets the stage for violence here.
Yeah, and by the way, Mike, there is actually, believe it or not, a link with our earlier segment about Joe Rogan and this. In the letter that the doctors sent to Spotify, they talked about Robert Malone, a physician who bills himself as an expert, but he's a skeptic of vaccines. And the letter says this, quote, notably, Dr. Malone is one of two recent Joe Rogan guests who have compared pandemic policies to the Holocaust. Mike?
Yeah, well, you know, Joe, anti-Semitism has been prevalent in our culture for decades, for eons. And Jonathan, it's something that you can't really poll to. You know, are you anti-Semitic?
Yeah.
You know, nobody's going to say, oh, yes, I am. But it does emerge in situations where people are on podcasts or on radio or on TV.
Yeah.
It emerged in public in Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. But what is your personal sense of a crest or a growing sense of anti-Semitism in this country, especially over the past 4 or 5 years?
Well, there's no doubt that the data doesn't lie. I mean, ADL's been tracking anti-Semitic incidents for decades and decades, and the numbers we're seeing today are staggering. After nearly a 15% decline in 2016, the numbers jumped 34%. In 2017, 57%. In 2018, it dipped a little, but that was the year of Pittsburgh, the most violent anti-Semitic attack in American history. In 2019, 12% was the highest total we've ever counted in more than 4 decades. And in 2020, a year when we were all socially distancing and college campuses were closed and businesses were shuttered, we still had the 3rd highest total ever. And then last May, after the fighting in Gaza, right, when people had very strong feeling about what was happening in the Middle East, somehow became open season on Jews. And Jewish people were attacked in broad daylight in Times Square, in downtown Los Angeles, all over the country. And the reality is, in Charlottesville and in Capitol Hill, they were wearing MAGA hats, if you will. In May of last year, they were coming from anti-Israel rallies. They were erstwhile folks on the far left. So I think one of the real lessons here is while you have this empirical rise in these incidents, we're seeing a kind of ugliness on both sides of the ideological spectrum. No one has a monopoly on morality. And I would say, really, Mike, anti-Semitism isn't a Jewish problem. It's an American problem. It's a sign of the decay of our society. And as we've seen time and time again throughout history, as it goes for the Jews, so it goes for the rest of the country.
Yeah, so Jonathan, I'm so glad you brought up. I'm glad you brought up the last point, Jonathan.
I'm not hearing him.
That, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't hear. Don't hear.
Doesn't hear. Okay. Well, the point. Yeah, Mike. The point I was about to make is, maybe you can pass it along. I'm glad that he brought up the fact that we have anti-Semitism on the right, obviously, but also we have it on the left, and we have had it on the left for quite some time. I was just curious, though, as to why we see it often, and we have seen it often, from some. Why do we see anti-Semitism from some of the most elite institutions, are at the universities? You've seen time and again.
Yeah.
A Jewish student being not just harassed. I know he hears me. My God, you guys stop talking, okay?
Miracles.
Yeah, okay. I have people saying you hear me. I get it, okay? I'm on my snow plow. Just let me go through the snow bank, and you guys stop telling me that the snow plow's working. Okay, here we go. Why is it that there's anti-Semitism on some of the most elite college campuses? There's always seemed to have been anti-Semitism on some of the most elite college campuses. We've seen it from the right. Everybody talks about Charlottesville, but people don't talk about Ivy League schools. People don't talk about what happened at USC a few years ago. People don't talk about the anti-Semitism that happens not only in the classrooms, but sometimes to students in their student life.
No doubt. We've seen it at Tufts University, at Duke University, at Michigan, at USC, like you mentioned, across the country. So I think this is a good example of sort of the overreaction of parts of the far left, where the Jewish state has been demonized and delegitimized to the point that it affects Jewish students. And I know this because we've done the polling and analysis, and we found that, in double digits, Jewish students feel the need to hide their identity on college campuses. And again, this is a good example of where even the best of intentions can go so far wrong. And so we've seen it from Middle East studies departments and other groups. Like last year, Joe, we had a situation where the Sunrise Movement, an environmental group, wanted to ban step out of a rally for D.C. statehood because the National Council of Jewish Women was participating because they were quote-unquote Zionist. And, this is just one example of many things we've seen where the far left excoriates the Jewish state and it impacts Jewish people. It is okay. It is fine to talk about and critique policies of the Israeli government. I do that. But there is something different when you demonize and delegitimize an entire country in a moment when, again, hatred against people associated with that country is on the rise. And look, if you don't think it's okay to assault Asian American people because you're upset about COVID-19, it shouldn't be okay to assault Jewish people because you're upset about policies in the Middle East. I'm sorry. Hate is hate, no matter who it's directed at, and all of it is wrong.
Hear, hear. CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you so much.